President of ELCINA and Vice Chairman and CEO of Dixon, Mr. N. Ramachandra Systems and Services and Chair of the Organizing Committee of Source India, Mr. Sashikumar Gendam, Senior Vice President of ELCINA and MD of Salcom, many familiar faces in the audience. I can't take each one of you by name. I know too many of you. Our friends from Taitra who are present here, and I think an important reason for success of Tamil Nadu definitely as a huge export destination, export source currently. I recall last year when ELCINA was held, I was there at their curtain raiser press conference, and we had some very interesting interactions with the news media on that occasion. And the event itself had grown, and I'm very happy to learn that this year it has grown even further. It's an even larger event. I think what it underlines is the importance, and I think there was a mention earlier of, how 13 editions of ELCINA's Source India have been coterminous with the rapid growth of electronics sector and electronics exports from India in general and from Tamil Nadu in particular. It's often said that correlation is not causation. It may not be, but then there is a correlation, and that in itself is important. I mean, something happens at the same time that it happens for good. We heard from Mr. Ramachandran the entire history of the electronics industry in India. Sometimes it's useful to reflect, and sometimes it's useful to look back. It's very interesting that, in my previous stints in the government of India, and there was a time at which I think we'd virtually given the electronics industry for lost, saying that this is not a sector where we are going to sit and manufacture much. We can import what needs to be imported, what the country needs, and that can take care of the requirements of cheap electronics which need to be in the hands of many of our people. And it was basically about where you have a competitive advantage, and if you do not have a competitive advantage in this sector, do not worry about manufacturing for the sector. Look for other ways of dealing with this. But I think in some ways better sense prevailed. And today we view electronics as possibly the largest single manufacturing sector in the world, and that's where it will end up. Electronics components are practically part of everything that we use in everyday life. And therefore, not being part of the electronics manufacturing value chain would be a strategic blunder as far as the country is concerned. We have to be part of that. Of course, ITA 1 was signed in 1997, and in some ways it was the death knell of many brands that we knew earlier. We are all aware of that. And now we are virtually seeing a second wave. Even my own ministry, which was originally called the Department of Electronics, then at various parts, at every stage, electronics was in the name. But for a very long time, it was basically a ministry which was looking at information technology and e-governance and various other aspects of it, and not so much the actual electronics manufacture. But over the last 4 to 5 years, I think we've put the electronics mojo back in this whole nomenclature of not just the ministry, but also in the way that we are pushing policy initiatives. Mention of the the Indian semiconductor mission was already made. That, of course, is a very large mission and is an important component of all electronics that we use today. But in addition, there's been the MSIPS program, there's been the PLI, the 2 PLI programs which we are running currently, one for large-scale electronics manufacture, which is actually the most successful PLI program that the government of India runs today. where most of the objectives have already been achieved even without actually disbursing all the subsidy which was expected to be disbursed. We also have now a new PLI program on electronic hardware manufacture, which has been very successful. 27 companies have signed on. Many of them have started production. Many of them are present here today. They are part of this program. Point was being made that, don't focus on just the big people, don't focus on just the new investments, look at even existing companies. But I think the good thing about the electronics hardware manufacture PLI is that it offers benefits even to existing companies. There are many companies which are there as part of that program where the additional investment being made is not very large, just about 3 to 5 crores. But what they would be eligible for in terms of benefits is quite substantial. The overall investment figure within that is only about 2,500 crores or so, but the overall benefits that are expected to pay out run into thousands of crores. The reason why I highlight this is because what it implies is that we recognize that we are dealing with an industry where India had a traditional strength, possibly had some capacity. A lot of that capacity is underutilized. There's a way in which we can actually pick up on that capacity and use it now in a way that will really benefit the country.